Okay, we're recording. We're going to share the screen. And I'm going to get it nice and big. Okay, and go to presenter view. Okay, Bob Kelly, go ahead.
Welcome to Crossing the California High Sierras with Marmot Bob. As you can see, this is a cover of a book of 58 pages. Each page is 20 inches by 20 inch photographs of the California High Sierras. In turning to page 1, you will note that we start out by being at beautiful Rosemary Meadows, which is in the middle of the California High Sierras. This book started in 1954 and was completed in 2016. Many of the shots in the beginning were taken with my Brownie camera and later with an Olympic camera. I want to dedicate page 3 to the people that keep and save the Sierras. On page 2, the dedication is to the California Sierra Club, the John Muir Society, the Organization for Saving the Golden Trout, and the U.S. Forest Service for keeping our trails safe and keeping the area clean. Without them, the Sierras, with the amount of people that enjoy it, could be damaged. Turning to page 3, you will see that Marmot Bob is on one of those trails. He's heading in with his 22-pound backpack, which includes a sleeping bag and tent in one. It's a pad with a Velcro sheet over it and then covered by a tarp. That is his tent and sleeping unit. The 22 pounds has most of the normal things you need, which includes a 2-week supply of food. The extra things are a fishing rod and reel and a camera. In looking at page 6, you will note that the book contains much about the John Muir Trail, all 214 miles of it from below Lake Tahoe to Southern California. And there are 4 crossings across it that the miners use to go to the gold country. We will explore some of these during our presentation. Along the John Muir Trail, there are 7 passes that are over 10,000 feet and one beautiful valley called Evolution Basin, which is 30 miles in from the closest vehicle point, and it has 6 active glaciers, and it's a site that you will never forget. In the corner, you will see my companion and my namesake, and that's a marmot. And a marmot lives above 10,000 feet. They live in little colonies. They look like a beaver without a beaver's tail. They like to stand up like a meerkat and chirp at you. And turning the page to number 5, you will see that Dr. Kelly is in the high country above 10,000 feet, going around a snowfield, and in doing so, it's a protection. Walking on the snowfields, you can fall into a crevasse. I've been doing this for 65 years. My family joins me when I go. It was part of my profession, teaching outdoor education for the University of California, and it's been my hobby all my life. On page 6, you will see a map of the John Muir Trail, which starts at Yosemite and goes south to Mount Whitney. it's well marked, and I will show some of this markings later on so you can see how safe the trail is. John Muir is there in the corner, and he is my namesake. I read and follow his teachings. In turning to page 7, you will see the first time that we started in the Sierras back in 1954. We wanted to climb Mount Whitney. And these are pictures of going up Mount Whitney. We were approximately 16 years old. Backpacking hadn't started yet. And as you can see, we're going up the trail to Mount Whitney, which is 14,419 feet high. And at the top, at the Trail Crest Pass at 13,777, we are looking west towards Fresno, down at the Hitchcock Lakes, down the Kern River Canyon to Sequoia Park. Looking to the east, we would be looking towards Las Vegas and Death Valley. So you can see two of us with our tiny cameras on page 8 when we were at the trail crest. Turning the page, you will see my backpacking family. We go each year for at least a 2-week trip, and these young men enjoy the mountains as much as I do. And as you can see here, we are entering the John Muir Wilderness area. One of the areas that we really enjoy, it's east of Fresno, past Huntington Lake, and it's called Mono Hot Springs. It's one of our favorite crossings to go over the Sierras. Mono Hot Springs is a very unusual place. It's very rustic with old buildings, has natural baths, and it also has a bathhouse with a very old store. We literally can be sitting here on this porch, looking at the river flowing by and eating a buffalo burger. Here's my son and I in one of the natural hot spring pots. So turning on to page 11, we are now going to take you on one of our favorite crossings. That'll be from Mono Hot Springs, up Bear Creek, through the niche, down the other side to the John Muir Trail. This will be approximately a 20-mile hike. So here we are starting up on the Bear Creek Trail on page 11. And you can see what the trail looks like on page 12, most of it. This is a unique trail to take because it has many interesting elements to it. And turning to page 213, we want to talk about trail markers. This is why I mentioned this earlier. You can see that there are signs, not too many of them, but telling you where to go and how far. But then what they do is they cut a blaze into a tree. It's a trail marker, so if there's snow, it's above the snow. And then finally, the one on the right is called a duck. And these are very important. I'm going to show you why, because we are now halfway up on the Bear Creek Trail. And I'm turning to page 15, you will note that I like this because around every turn on Bear Creek is another picture or view of Bear Creek. It's very beautiful, and you can see the little trout swimming in it. And from the west side, it's pretty rugged. And then halfway up is our favorite spot, and it's called Double Waterfalls here on page 16. We love to float in this. It's after about a 12-mile hike. It's a great place to camp and to relax. And turning the page, you will see some more views of along Bear Creek and some comments by John Muir, which I think are fascinating, which I'll read to you. The clearest way into the universe is through forest wilderness. I think that's very appropriate for that picture. And then John also said, which I never forget, keep close to nature's heart and break clear away once in a while, climb a mountain or spend a week in the woods. Wash your spirit clean. So in turning the page on the Bear Creek Trail, here comes an interesting part where these near the top of the pass you're going to go over, you cross miles of large granite slabs. And obviously, if it was raining or snowing, you can see where I'm standing, it's very hard to even see the trail. And so without those ducks, you would not be able to find your way across this if it was very wet or just, it's difficult because the glare off it is strong. Now, a pair of sunglasses are obviously a requirement. So these slabs, now we're going to get up to our first pass that we're going to cross, and that's on page 21. And that is going to be called the Niche. It's probably one of the lowest passes that you can cross in the Sierras. It's on, and looking to the east, you're looking down towards the Fresno area and Sequoia Park and all of the forest back that way. But looking to the right is going to be a picture of what's future to come. From the Niche, you are looking up Bear Creek Canyon, which is surrounded by 7 snow-capped peaks. The far peak in the back that you can see, that's called the Seven Gables. And we're going to visit that in just a moment and maybe tell a story. But that is where we're going to go. And so that's a picture of what's yet to come. Now on page 23, we have reached the Seven Gables and we are in Rosemarie Meadows looking at the beautiful Seven Gables. And the story I want to tell next to it is called the Seven Recesses. Each one is a step. Each one is about a half a mile apart and about a half a mile long. You walk up each recess, it has its own meadow, its own creek, its own picture. Finally, when you get to the top, you are in a very unusual area of the Sierras, and that's called the Bear Lake region. If you want to catch golden trout, this is the place to be. And each lake, little lake or more, is named after a bear: white bear, brown bear, twin bear, etc. And it's fun to visit these and to fish for the golden trout. In turning the page, we are now going to camp in Rosemarie Meadows, and that's on page 25. I want to talk a little bit about camping. As I said, we only carry about a 20-pound pack, and usually we don't like to take more than 4 or 5 of us because we don't want to damage. This fragile area is under snow 8 months out of the year, and it can be very easy to damage, and I will talk about some of the things you might damage in a moment. But as you'll see, we're pumping water and filtering it. That's very important. One of the sicknesses that you get from the water in the Sierras is called Giardia, and it's something you really don't want to have. And so you need to keep your water clean at all times. When you camp, you want to be at least 50, 100 yards away from any water source. You don't want to damage it. You want to be able to dig your own latrine and be able to cover it up when you are finished. Above or below 10,000 feet, you are permitted to have fires. Obviously, lots of people use the Sierras. Don't ever make your own fire pit. There'll always be one that you can find at a location. So this is my family of the 5 of us at Rosemary Meadows on our way up the John Muir Trail. In turning the page to number 27, we're going to talk about the animals. And I'm going to tell a little story about this guy. I had just finished a 26-mile hike across the Sierras from North Fork, California to Mammoth, California. On my way across, it was hot, dusty, because some of it had been burned. And I crossed many streams. Finally, I got to the cabin, which is some of the few cabins on the Muir Trail. And I was sitting on the porch, waiting to walk across the field to go take a shower. And lo and behold, here comes my buddy. He's coming right at me. But I was able to close the door and go inside the cabin, looking at the wall being only a half an inch thick, thinking, uh-oh. But he went on by me because the dogs had chased him up onto the hill. The animals you will get to know above 10,000 feet, the marmot and the and animals like that, they will come down and take your food. And in the lower elevations, you will always have the chipmunks trying to get your food. So it's very important that you hang your food in trees at night. And in Sequoia Park and many other parts of the Sierras, you're now required to use a canister. It's about a 2-foot long plastic tube, which is about 10 inches in diameter, and it holds your food, and a bear can't get into it. Again, at the end of the book, we have all kinds of suggestions and information that you can use. A lot of the animals that you do see at the higher elevation are robins and blackbirds that are always flitting around, and that's just about what could live up there during that time. You see very few deer at the high elevation. Here's one hiding in the forest right next to Blaney Meadows in the San Joaquin River drainage. In crossing the page to 29, probably my favorite subject to talk about is fishing. I originally went to Mount Whitney and the back of Mount Whitney to catch a golden trout. This was back in 1954. The golden trout was not known by the people of California, even though it became our state fish. In looking at the photograph, you will see 2 kinds of golden trout. The one in the upper right corner is called the Paiute. The one that I caught at Arctic Lake on the back of Mount Whitney is called the Kern River. It is our native fish, and what's interesting about it, down the lateral line of its body are thumbprints. These beautiful fish that I caught was a one morning catch. This is way back in 1960 when the laws and our knowledge of fish and the environment was not like it is today. I would not do this today, but those fish were caught at Murray Lake. But I did feed a group of 12 hungry teenagers. It is important to have fish on your trip because the fresh protein is important for your body, because you are walking about 10,000 steps a day and burning about 3,000 to 4,000 calories. So these, I like to fly fish, and most of these fish have all been caught obviously on flies. The golden trout are now, you can catch them on barbless hooks, but they need to be released. In turning the page to number 31, the beauty of these meadows and these Sierras are the flowers. And the flowers you won't ever forget. Here's a few. The meadows are full of them. Some of the ones that I think are fun for me to see, especially my first time, is the snow plant in the right corner of page 32. That usually is in a place you don't expect it to be. It'll grow from some kind of fungus. And the other one that is dear to my heart is in the bottom left corner, and it's called the rock rose. It's a tiny little flower about the size of your thumbnail, and it has a tiny little pine cone the size of a pinhead. It grows 1/2 inch a year. So if you see one that's 30 inches long, you know that it's probably over 60 years old. I'm very careful when I walk around the meadows and areas. I don't often take the same trail twice and damage the area. In turning the page, you will see what you won't forget. As John Muir said, or Marmot Bott said, climbing these forest giants is your way and your map to the heavens. Here on page 33 is the bristlecone pine. It's over 5,000 years old, and it's very rugged, unique to see. And obviously, you'll be seeing two kinds of redwood trees in the Sierras. I'd like you to get used to knowing the names of these different species so you know what you're looking at and how they live and survive. And that is the Sequoia gigantea, which is the big, short, stocky one. And there's the Sequoia sempervirens, which is tall and thin and beautiful. In turning the page, 235 becomes my favorite place, and that's Rosemary Meadows. And as you can see, it's beautiful. It has a small stream that flows through it with little trout skirting along. There are rocks and small shrubs with flowers. What I like about it is the 7 peaks that surround it. And at night they become orange with the sun going down. Beautiful sight. There are many beautiful meadows. My mom always said, stop and smell the daisies. Don't treat your backpacking trip like a cross-country trip. Stop and enjoy the scenery. These are things that will be in your mind the rest of your life. And turning the page to 37, we're going to look at some of the lakes. There are probably over 1,000. And many of them obviously are blue. Some of them are only thawed out 3 months out of the year. And as I talked earlier about the Bear Lakes area, the bottom photograph with the reflection on it is from White Bear Lake. You can see why it's got its name. The lakes are beautiful. Some of them are so big that it can take a half a day to walk around them. Enjoy them. Just remember not to camp right on top of them. Stay way back so that none of your waste or damage can hurt the water. In turning the page, we are looking at an area that is very popular with my family, and that's called the Trip to Apollo Lake, which you'll see in just a minute. This is out of Bear Diversion Dam and Mono Hot Springs on Bear Creek, but instead of going up the creek, we go straight up the mountain past the Bear Dome. And there's a reward, and this is the reward. Marcella Lake is what we reach first, and it is full of brook trout. The flies blow in, or the mosquitoes over it, and you can just see all night. There's lots of fish there. But what's unique about this, another 2 miles up from it is Cirque Lake. And turning the page on 41, we'll be looking up at Cirque Lake, which has rainbow trout in it. And then we're going to drop down to our favorite lake, which is about 15 miles off trail. So you will need a topo map and a compass. Apollo Lake has its own glacier, and I've seen that glacier, and it's technically called a snowfield, since 1960. And it is full of golden trout, but they're hard to catch. but it's a gorgeous, beautiful lake. And Cirque Lake is up even higher. It's in a cirque, which is kind of like a rock depression, but it's a unique lake that looks like a snake. And turning the page to 43, we will look at some of the country above the timberline. And as you can see, the timberline has very few trees, small pockets of meadows, and usually few areas to find a camp, but there are lots of little meadows and places to stay. It is very rugged country. Most of it has no trails over it. You usually go around it in canyons. And in turning the page, you will see some of the mountain peaks on page 45 that are above the Muir Trail. And there are many that you will see that are well over 11,000 feet. And here are some that are behind Blaney Meadows on the San Joaquin River behind Edison Lake, east of Fresno, California. And in turning the page, here is some more on 47, which is more of a typical setting. Here we are coming down the trail across this beautiful meadow, surrounded by these gorgeous peaks. And every once in a while, you might be surprised in certain parts of the Sierras or the South Sierras to see antelope. But these views you won't forget. The picture with the fog or the smoke coming through the trees is one of two pictures in this book that has won an award at the Mid-State Fair in Paso Robles, California. Turning the page is backpacking tips and suggestions that I've put together for the last many years. And finally, if we go to page 51 and 52, this is the final page of the book. And it talks about the old timers crossing the Sierras. And there's an article about Marmot Bob and his partner crossing the Sierras many years ago in the year 2000. And Marmot Bob is on page 52, and his partner, Larry Hibden. And we have made many crossings of the Sierras. Turning to page 53, this is my farewell picture to all of you as Marmot Bob. I am at Apollo Lake. It's my farewell picture to you. You will see on the page to the right of it, on 54, is my family and friends that have joined me in the Sierras. Here I'm saying goodbye. Please come and enjoy the Sierras. Please protect the Sierras and leave your camp better than the way you found it. So that is the 58-page book. And if you turn to the back cover, you will see what the peaks look like at night at sundown. The book is available for purchase. It's $100. It's plus shipping, and it's 20 by 20-inch pages with the text as you saw. Also, Crossing the High Sierras is a stage play that had been written, that I wrote, and my family produces it. It's a 2-hour stage play that's a lot like what John Muir would have said or done. It's a trip through the Sierras with many stories, beautiful music, some special songs, and it's available. It takes 10 actors and cast to put it on, and we ask for expenses, and the money that we receive from it goes to the Sierra Club, the John Muir Society, and Saving the Golden Trout. Well, thank you. I hope someday you can cross the Sierras. Con, that's the end.